Hello and welcome. My name is Pankaj Kumar Singh. I have done my bachelor's in mathematics, B.Ed, and master's in counseling psychology. Apart from being a math teacher, I'm also a therapist. I'm a mental health therapist, providing therapy sessions for people in distress. I'm a freelance teacher and a freelance therapist. So being a therapist and a math teacher helps me to address issues or address questions of students in an empathetic way. Many a times when I'm taking classes, when I use the word compassion and empathy, students get confused because they say that, at least it's not been my experience, I do see a lot of teachers who are compassionate and who are empathetic in their own way. But they get confused that I as a math teacher use these words, and I as a math teacher I'm also a therapist, so they're very confused about it. I see it as something that every individual would need, therapy. It enhances them as a human being. It makes them a better person, a more compassionate, more understanding, self-loving, which would enhance their personality itself. So, coming back to the topic for today, I'm going to be focusing on synthetic division method. The idea is to teach you how to factorize an equation which is cubic and above. So, it's a very simple process. We're going to learn that. Generally, what we know is the remainder theorem and the factor theorem. But we never learn how to factorize a cubic or a biquadratic. You do that using long division method. Yeah, in your 9th standard, CBSE would have learned the long division method. If you do not know synthetic division method, IB students, they do use the long division method. So I'm going to take up question number 6 and then slowly move on to question number 1. Okay, let's see. So what I have here is 2x cubed minus 3x squared plus 5x, and that's divided by x plus 2. The goal is to divide and find out what happens, right? So generally, I would go with the long division method. Write the dividend over here. And then start dividing it. And whatever we get, ultimately we have a remainder, and then that's the thing. And yeah, as experience says, most of you go wrong with this. There is some kind of a multiplication or an addition error that you would do. So what happens in a synthetic division method? Let's see. In synthetic division method, I'm going to draw 2 lines like that and write the coefficients of the polynomial in the reducing powers of x, which means 2 is going to be written first, and then I would write a minus 3, which is the coefficient of x squared, and then I would go with the 4, which is the coefficient of x, and then finally a 5. Finally a 5. Now what? Next, he has told me that I need to divide it by x plus 2. I'm going to equate that to a 0, which will give me the value for x as equal to minus 2. I'm going to write minus 2 here, and I'm going to call that as a significant number. Significant number. So if I'm taking that as a significant number, what's the next step? The next step is to write a 0 in the first column. It will always get a 0. Keep that in your mind. Now going down, you will always add like that. That will give me a 2. Having said that, for the next column, you would multiply and update it here. So when I multiply and update it, the value that I get is a 2. Minus 4, I'm sorry. Minus 4. Again, going down, you would add. In this case, the addition will result in a minus 7. Now, you would go ahead and multiply the same minus 2 with a minus 7 and update it over here. So minus 2 into minus 7 is simply going to be a plus 14. A plus 14. Again, you're going to add. Once you add that, you're going to end up with a 18. Now, you're going to be multiplying. 18 into 2 is going to be how much? 36. You're going to remain with the minus 36. When I add them up, I'll have a minus 31. What is this telling me? This is telling me that this is not completely divisible, which simply means that x plus 2 is not a factor of the given polynomial. Why is that so? Because this box will represent the remainder, which is a minus 31. So now I can write 2x cubed minus 3x squared plus 4x plus 5 as equal to, this is a cubic equation, and hence the numbers here are going to become the coefficients of a quadratic equation, which means this is going to become 2x squared minus 7x plus 18 minus 31 divided by x plus 2. Minus 31 divided by x plus 2. Now that's how I do the synthetic division method. For question 7, the process is still the same. Draw two lines. One like that and another like that. Start writing the coefficients of x, the variable, in the reducing powers of x, which means the first term that I'm going to write here is going to be a 1, and then a minus 2, and then a minus 8, and then a minus 35. I'm just spacing it a bit so that it's easy for you to understand. Otherwise, you don't need to space it this much. Once you get used to the method, probably you can write it a bit more smaller and closer. Like that. That is only once you get used to it. For now, I think I will take the liberty of spacing it a bit further away. Process is still the same. The first column will get a 0. Now I'm going to take x minus 5 equated to 0. That will give me the x value as a 5. Write 5 over here. Add, when you're going vertical, add them up. You're going to remain with the 1. And you multiply, update it over here. And that's going to give me a 5. Again, you add these two. When you add them, you're going to get a 3. Now, go ahead, multiply and update it over here, which is going to give you a 15. Again, you add them up. So minus 8 plus 15 is going to be a 7. Update it. Now, multiply and update it here. And that's going to give you a 35. You can see the last numbers when added will give me a 0. And that is nothing but the remainder. And therefore, now I can say that x minus 5 is a factor of the given polynomial. And if that's the case, and if I'm taking f of x as equal to x cubed minus 2x squared minus 8x minus 35, f of x can now be written as x minus 5, which is one of the factors, multiplied by, this is a cubic equation, and therefore these numbers here are going to be the coefficients of a quadratic equation, which means x squared plus 3x plus 7. And that is the factorization. Remember, in these questions, I already know what is the significant number. There will be certain questions in which the significant number will not be given to you. I'll also be teaching you how to find the significant number. Initially, we're going to learn this method, and then we're going to look at how to find a significant number, and then going about doing this question. Let's look at the 8th question. The 8th question is important for a reason. Why? Because if you look at it, there are certain coefficients that's missing. There are certain terms that is missing. One of them is a y-square term. So when you get questions like this, you need to be careful. If there is any term missing, you need to update that term with a coefficient of 0. What do I mean? I mean, you need to write this equation as that. That's my f of y. Now you go for the synthetic division method. The coefficient of y cube 1, y squared, y, and then the constant. The first term is always a 0. Significant number is a 1. I'm saying it's a 1 by referring to that. Y minus 1 is a 0, which means y is equal to 1 is going to be the significant number. Again, the process is to add, update, multiply, update. Again, add. So you're going to get a 1. Now you multiply and update. So that's going to give you a 1. Add again. So you add minus 3 plus 1. You get a minus 2. And now you multiply 1 with a minus 2 and update. And that's going to give you a minus 2. You add them up, you're going to get a 2. So this is not completely factorizable. Yeah, this is not completely factorizable. The remainder is going to be a 2. That can also be confirmed using the remainder theorem. If you can recollect, if y minus 1 is a, if f of y is so and so and g of y is y minus 1, then the remainder is simply f of 1, which is something that we learned in remainder theorem also. But in this case, we are able to factorize and also find the remainder. We're not doing the long division method. Yeah, I wouldn't suggest a 9th standard student to do this synthetic division method in your examination, because they're looking for you to do the long division method. Having said that, you can certainly do this in your working column to confirm if your answer is correct. In that way, it will be helpful to you. So here I'll have a 1 cube minus 3 into 1 plus 4, which is nothing but 5 minus 3, and that's going to give you a 2, which is what I got here. And therefore, f of y can now be written as, it's a cubic equation, and therefore the coefficients of the quadratic equation will be that, which means y squared plus y minus 2 is what I will write here, plus 2 divided by y minus 1. Plus 2 divided by y minus 1. Perfect. Let's move on. In question number 5, we have been given the polynomial that I'm going to be dividing it by. I'm going to make a small change here. Let us say the question simply says, in fact, this is going to be the situation for 12th standard students when they're doing increasing, decreasing functions and maxima, minima. After differentiating, they might end up with a cubic equation, something like that. And their goal will be to factorize it. Yeah, their goal is to factorize it. So let us say this is what I have, and I'm supposed to be factorizing this equation. What I'm now going to do is to find out different values of x, where I'm going to get a 0. 9th standard student will relate to this. This is basically the factor theorem. And If I take the factors of 6, which is going to be a 1, well, I'm going to go with a plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, and then a plus or minus 6. Any one of these are going to be the factors. Any one of these are going to be the factors. That's if it is factorizable. If I try f of 1, I will have 1 cube plus 2 into 1 square minus 5 into 1 minus 6. This, of course, is not going to be a 0 because I'm going to remain with that. You can already see that negative numbers is far more greater than the positive numbers, and therefore this is not going to be a 0. I don't need that. I'm now going to try 2. When I try 2, I'm going to have a 2 cube plus 2 into 2 square minus 5 into 2 minus 6, and that's going to give me a 8 plus 2 to the power of 2 is a 4. 4 2s is 8 minus 10 minus 6. So you can see here 8 plus 8 is 16, and this is going to be a 16, which means this is going to be a 0. Well, what does that mean? Well, it simply means that x is equal to 2 is 0 of the equation. Therefore, x minus 2 is a factor of f of x. You see, this is something that you learn in 9th standard, but yeah, that's okay if in case you have forgotten. X minus 2 is a factor. So how is that going to help me in synthetic division method? And under synthetic division method, well, you're going to look at the significant number, and the significant number is going to be a 2 because 2 was the one which gave me a 0. What next? Write the coefficients: 1, 2, minus 5, minus 6. First column 0, add, multiply, add, multiply, and then you get a 0 over here. And what's that going to tell me? It's going to tell me that f of x can now be written as x minus 2 into, these are going to be the coefficients of a quadratic equation, and that's going to be x squared plus 4x plus 3. After this, you can further factorize x squared plus 4x plus 3 using the splitting the middle term method. Yeah, and that's how you do synthetic division method. Let's look at the final question. You can try the remaining questions, whatever I have not done. You can probably try them out and let me know if that works for you. Yeah, I'm going to pick up question number 3 here. That's the last question that I'm going to be doing. Okay, so let me take this as f of x, which is x to the power of 5 minus 1, and I'm going to take g of x as equal to x minus 1. G of x is equal to x minus 1. Now, if I substitute the value for x is equal to 1 in f of x, then I get a 0. So I directly know that 1 is going to be the significant number for me. However, what am I going to do? Well, let's go for the synthetic division method. In this case, I cannot write 1 and then a minus 1. No, I need to write the entire polynomial with the reducing powers of x till 0, which means I need to write f of x as equal to x to the power of x to the power of 5 plus 0 times of x to the power of 4 plus 0 times of x to the power of 3 plus 0 times of x squared plus 0 times of x minus 1. Now for the synthetic division method, you would update the coefficients in the reducing powers of the variable. 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, minus 1. So that's what I would get. Let's see, how many zeros do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Write your significant number, which is a 1 over here. The first column will always have a 0. Add, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply. That's going to give you a 0. It's an equation with the power of 5. The degree is a 5. And therefore, what you will have here is an equation of degree 4. What does that mean? It means that f of x can now be written as g of x, which is a factor, into all of them are 1, the coefficients of the variable x. So I can blindly write this as x to the power of 4 plus x cubed plus x squared plus x and a plus 1. That's going to be your equation. So I'm not going to attempt to factorize this further. I'm going to stop with that. The goal was to teach you synthetic division method. I think we have addressed different types of questions and looked at how to add a 0 if in case the power of x is missing from the equation. That's your synthetic division method. I hope you understood how to do synthetic division method. If in case you did not, probably you can place a comment. I will go through it. Probably I'll pick up some more questions and do them. So in this question, we looked at what is the synthetic division method. We looked at certain questions. We understood what is the meaning of a significant number and how to get the significant number. We not only looked at completely factorizing it, we also looked at how to divide. Instead of using the long division method, we could go with this, and what you get here is basically the remainder. That is going to be the remainder. Another question here, well, this was a factor, and therefore you got the remainder as 0. As I mentioned, this is going to be a cubic equation, and therefore these are going to be the coefficients of a quadratic equation. As mentioned earlier, if in case there is a term missing, like in this case y square is missing, you need to update that with a 0y square, because when you're going to use the synthetic division method, if there is a power missing, you need to write a 0 for that. Even when you're doing the long division method, it's advisable that you do so. This is another synthetic division method in which we did not take this into consideration. Without taking this into consideration, we tried to factorize the equation. I found a significant number, or the 0 of the equation. Using that, I know that this is going to be the factor. Having said that, we went to the significant number, we updated the values, add, multiply and update, add, multiply and update, add, multiply and then update, and then you finally add. This is a cubic equation. Therefore, the terms here are going to be the coefficients of a quadratic equation. So you can see this can be written as 1x squared plus 4x plus the constant 3. That's the equation there. So another equation, a very interesting equation actually, is pretty long, yeah. So what we did was to write this in the reducing powers of x. We took 0 into x to the power of 4, 0 into x to the power of 3, 0 into x squared, 0 into x. And then we started off with the synthetic division method. Understand, it's always add, multiply and update. Add, multiply, update. Okay, great. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you have understood this. Please share it with your friends for their help, and any question that you want me to do, please put it in the comment section. Thank you very much for joining. Goodbye.